Well then, hello everyone to round 5 and 6, technically, of the Breakout Racing League Formula 2. Now, we are here today at the Portuguese Grand Prix, which is held in Portimao, which is the newest track in the Formula 1 game. Portimao has a long straight going into turn 1, lots of fast corners, and lots of uphills and downhills as well. So it's going to be tricky for the drivers to go around this track. 2 DRS zones, one on the main straight and then one after turn 4. You could see plenty of overtaking opportunities here. And we are now just watching one-shot qualifying for all the drivers to get a lap in to try and get pole position. Now, if you missed last week, we had quite an interesting Grand Prix, I would say the least, where we had a bunch of drivers up and down the order going, well, I would say a bit crazy, but not quite. But because of that Grand Prix, the gap between the leaders has gone down a tiny bit, but not much. But Neymar, the championship leader, leads Port by, I believe, just under 10 points, and then it's actually a Uni Virtuosi 2-3. Taylor Clan right behind 2 points, which obviously would mean that Uni Virtuosi leading the Constructors' Championship by quite a mile. And then quite a ways back, you got DeBees on 25 points. He got a podium last week in China. Let's see if he can try and improve on that. But for the time being, DeBees, currently P2, right ahead of him, is actually the former F2 world champion of unsighted port. Is he going to get pole position here in Portimao? Comes around the final corner, opens the DRS right about now. Is it pole position? Yes, it is, with a 125.5. Quite a margin, actually, ahead of his teammate of Taylor Klein, almost a full second, I believe. So, Port already showing what he can do here. And that will gain him 4 points, like it says up there in the championship, closing his gap on Neymar, who's actually DNF'd. So Neymar has some work to do if he wants to catch up to Port and streak out in the Drivers' Championship. Now, the grid is a little bit small, as you've noticed. There's only 7 drivers, but we do have one new driver. As you can see, lining up in P4 is Astra Racing, who has joined ART alongside Carbon. Let's see what she can do in her debut Grand Prix, the Canadian driver. Oh, here we go. We got a little bit of rain, haven't we? And it's actually quite a lot of rain. You can see a bunch of puddles in the pit lane, so that's going to be interesting. But, so, usually in the feature race, which is round 5, which we are going to go to, usually you would have to pit, but you have to go on the alternate tire. But in this race, who knows if the wet is going to calm down or not? If it does, we can see some interesting strategies. But if not, then, well, we could see quite an interesting race for the wet. We'll see how these drivers get on. So if you're just joining right now, Port, the Uni Virtuosi driver, got pole position ahead of his teammate Taylor Clan, both leading the constructors. Now you got DeBees, who got a podium last week, starts P3, so it's a decent result for DeBees. Let's see if he can try and get ahead of the Virtuosis. It's Astra Racing in her debut in ART in 4th position, ahead of her teammate Carbon F1. Then it's Ferrari Nut and then Neymar. So it's Virtuosi, Prima, ART, then both high-techs in P6 and P7. As for strategy, well, there isn't much of a strategy. It's more just keeping on the tracks, because since everyone, as you can see, is on the wet compound tire. So let's see how these drivers can mitigate the wet along some tricky corners, such as this corner right here, turn 4 and turn 8, as it's actually been proven to many people that corner itself is pretty tricky. But let's see how they get on in this race. We got 19 laps in the feature race, I believe 13 in the sprint race later on today. But yeah, both virtuosos lining up on the lining up in the front row. It's gonna be quite interesting, I would say. But like I said before, and I'll say it again, we shall find out. 19 laps, I believe 16 corners or 15, I'm not entirely sure. And there won't be DRS, so they won't have DRS to aid them. So they're just gonna have to go for complete skill if they're gonna want to keep this car on the track. But as of right now, they're just trying to warm up their tires to make sure that they do stay on the track. As they are now entering the third sector, as they are getting ready to form up on the formation lap, as we're following along with Port. He's going to come around the final couple of corners, and he's going to start bunching up everyone and forming up to line up on pole position, which ultimately gave him 4 points. But he's going to have a tough challenge here if he wants to get ahead in the championship, because he's got the likes of Taylor and maybe Neymar can come back. But who knows what could happen? Maybe the likes of DeVries or Astra or even Carbon could come up, or even Ferrari Nut. Anything is possible in this type of race because we don't know how the drivers are going to get through. As for now, everyone lining up onto their grid slots. I believe that is Neymar coming up behind to line up in P7. Yes, it is. And he's going to start this race from the back. Let's see what he can do at the start of this race. As we come on to 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go. Bit of a slow start for Port, and Taylor's already alongside, and I think ahead. Yes, he is. So Taylor getting a beautiful start ahead of his teammate, and he leads the first corner. Ahead of Port, then comes DeBees, and I believe Astra, then Ferrari Nut, Neymar, and Carbon has fallen down to P7, so not the best of starts. But Taylor just got a completely amazing launch off the start, getting ahead of his teammate after getting a win. And I believe P4 last week, he's going to want to improve and get a double win. But here comes Port on the inside of turn 5. Taylor's going to try and keep it around the outside. Goes wide, though. Is he going to get the position back? He's got a 3-second time penalty already. That's not going to help him at all. But he keeps the position ahead of Port. But does he have to get that back? Could it be illegal, as we already have a spin, and that is Carbon. Has he kept it out of the wall? Yes, he has. So he's going to continue. But Taylor Clan already getting 3 seconds. That is not what he wanted, as it's only the first lap of the Grand Prix. Taylor ahead of Port, ahead of DeBees, Astra, then comes Ferrari Nut, and Neymar is actually, Ferrari Nut's actually trying to overtake Astra to P4. Astra keeping it around the outside and staying ahead of both the high techs. Is actually on the charts as Ferrari Nut goes diving down the inside. Makes a bit of contact though. That's going to allow Neymar to sweep him on the inside. Does he make the move fully stick? No, he doesn't. He backs out. Astra comes diving right back at Neymar though, but gets a little squirrely, and Neymar comes right back. They're going wheel to wheel, but Neymar gets ahead of the ART driver and up into 5th place. Both high techs already making up 2 positions at the start of the race, as Taylor leads the first lap, but it's not the first lap he would have wanted. Although he's leading, he's got that 3-second, like I said, and Port is all over the back of him as they are streaking out ahead of the Prima driver of DeBees in P3, who's actually way ahead of Ferrari Nut, as we actually got a pitter, and it is Carbon. Does he have a change of front wing? Yes, he does, so he is going to change his front wing. And still, Taylor ahead of Port, ahead of DeBees, Ferrari Nut, Neymar, Astra Racing, then Carbon, as DeBees actually goes a little bit deep and nearly goes off into the gravel. Keeps it all together though, but that's good. That's allowing Ferrari Nut to come even closer to that Prima driver. If Ferrari Nut can get closer, can he possibly go for an overtake? We'll have to wait and see. But the closest battle for now is the 2 Uni Virtuosi drivers. Remember, they're fighting for although it's only the 3rd round, they're still fighting for the championship. They said that they wanted it. Well, they're leading 1 and 2, so this is exactly what they wanted. They can't exactly bump into each other for now, as Neymar is actually right on the back of Ferrari. Is he going to go for a move on the inside? No, he doesn't, and there's a yellow flag. Is that Carbon? I believe that is... Yes, it is. He manages to keep it going on the out of the grass and back onto the track, as he is not having the best of times at Portimao. But Neymar right on the back of his high-tech teammate, going really wide though. That's not what he would have wanted. Port's just the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, as he's actually really gaining on his teammate, trying to go on the inside. Doesn't make it stick, however, and still has to settle for P2, but he's going to go diving on the inside of turn 3. Can he make the move stick? Taylor tries to go around the outside, but gets too deep, and Port takes back the lead after having a poor start. So Port now leads ahead of Taylor, but it's still a UNI Virtuosi 1-2 for the time being, but it's only the 3rd lap. And then Neymar suddenly goes diving on the inside of Ferrari Nut, but he goes way too deep, and Ferrari Nut just comes right back at him. So Neymar tried to go for a bit of a bold move, hasn't made it work, and now he still has to stay behind his teammate, as now Ferrari Nut is still trying to pressurize the beast. It actually goes really wide at turn 7 going into turn 8. So this is not one. So although he's looking alright in these conditions, he's still not entirely getting the best out of the car, as he tries to go for a move on the inside. He backs out of it, so he's playing a little bit of the smart game. But the question is if what they're going to do for Virtuosi, is he going to let Neymar by, or is Neymar going to try and make a move? He's right on the back of his teammate, just trying every which way to get ahead of him. It's not working, as Ferrari is now trying to go for a move on the Prima driver. They're going wheel to wheel. Does he have the move stick? They're going wheel to wheel at the final corner. Who's going to back out? None of them are backing out. They're going around the outside. It's the Bees. They're still going wheel to wheel on the final straight. They're basically neck and neck. Oh, a little bit of contact there. And luckily, there's no damage out of the driver. Which one's going to back out? And it looks like Ferrari Nut backs out a little bit, but Debase goes a bit deep, and so does Ferrari Nut. And Neymar's coming ahead of both of them. So Neymar has got ahead of both his teammate and Debase, and makes his way up into the podium places. And now he's going to try and chase after the UNI Virtuosi drivers. What a move from Neymar. And now Ferrari Nut is trying to overtake Debase around the outside of turn 5. But Debase tries to defend it. He goes a bit deep, and he gets a little squirrely, but so does Ferrari Nut. And Ferrari Nut, they're almost wheel to wheel again. Is Ferrari Nut going to try and go around the outside of turn 7? Thinks better of it, but Debase just defends the inside, and they settle down in P4 and P5, and now Ferrari Nut's now left the session, which is not what he wanted. I'll try and get him back. There we go. Yeah, Neymar ahead of the Beast, ahead of Ferrari Nut. So that has not gone well for Ferrari Nut, but it's gone beautifully for Neymar. But he's got a 6, nearly 7-second gap to catch up to the Virtuosi drivers, as these two are just completely streaking ahead. Carbon gets a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. Did he go a bit off the track for a while? Not sure. Port sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix at 1:39.1. He's setting quite some fast lap times right now, as he feels as if he's got this track to an absolute T in these conditions, as Carbon goes really deep. Carbon just not getting that braking zone, and he's already over a minute behind the other drivers, so Carbon just not having a great time. But now things have settled down a little bit. So now it is Port ahead of Taylor. Their gap is staying a bit steady. It's around 1 second for the time being, as they're just trying to settle into a rhythm for now. As for penalties, as of lap 5, Taylor with that 3-second on the first lap, and then Astra with a 3-second as well, and then Carbon with a 13-second. So whether penalties will play a huge role in this, we'll have to wait and find out. But it's only 7 drivers, so you can still come away with points. But the question is, what points? really. Meanwhile, Neymar trying to just gain all that lost time he had on the two Virtuosi drivers, the championship leader at the moment, ahead of the one who's leading the Grand Prix on side of Port. He's just trying to, it's really just damage limitation unless he can catch up to those drivers in the next 14 laps, as DeBees is now getting a little bit ahead of Ferrari Nut, and Astra is closing up. As Port says another fast lap of the Grand Prix. We're peeking into the 38s now. So, could the track be getting a little bit drier? It looks like the track is actually drying up a bit. So, could we actually get into dry conditions? We'll have to wait and find out for that. But, yeah, as of now, everyone just settling into a rhythm. Everyone just trying to figure out the conditions and, yeah, just trying to not spin ideally, as they could lose a ton of time if they do so. Ferrari Nut, who disconnected, I believe he is back now. Yes, he is. So he is going to try and gain back all the lost time he did on DeBees. And Astra's going to try and catch up to Ferrari Nut, the high-tech driver, as they're all battling for P4 at the moment. It's kind of spread out, but who knows what could happen? We'll have to wait and see. But back up to Port. He's actually gained 2.6 seconds ahead of his teammate. So Port suddenly finding a lot of pace in that UNI Virtuosi car. It seems as if right now he's got that car taken to an absolute T. He's just having a flawless race for now, despite that start, as he wants to get ahead. He just wants to take a championship, as he had the World Championship last season. Does he set another fastest lap? Yes, he does. Port with a 38.4, so that's how you know the track is starting to ramp up, as we have another spin. That is Carbon. Carbon looks to have kept it out of the wall, so he's good to continue, but he is now officially lapped, as he is just not having the best of times in these conditions, really. He's just struggling all throughout for now. We'll have to wait and see if he can do something in the dry. Maybe he has a dry setup. We will find out if there is a dry race in the sprint. But gap between Port and Taylor, 3 seconds, and the gap between Taylor and Neymar has actually gone down to, I believe, 6.1 as of now. 6 seconds. Neymar catching up a little bit, as we have actually a bit of a spin again. It's Carbon again. He's Carbon, you're just not having a good race, buddy, as he gets lapped by DeBees and Ferrari Nut as well. He actually takes out a brake marking board, which probably won't help drivers that are using line. But yeah, Ferrari Nut, this is really the closest battle right now. DeBees and Ferrari Nut battling for P4 in this Grand Prix. Ferrari Nut going really wide, though, really pinching the inside, seeing if he could try and find time, though. It looks like he just lost a lot of time, so that's not the line he would have wanted, as he's trying to get P4, not just on the road, but also just on the track, as we have Carbon going wide and spinning again, and that has been officially lapped by everyone in this Grand Prix, unfortunately. So, yeah, I think Carbon will probably be waiting for someone to crash out by this point if he wants to get some more points, but still P7. That's still 6 points. So I mean, he's still getting something out of this, since the low attendance is helping him out. He just has to keep it on the track for now, as Port now gets a 3-second time penalty. So whether that'll play gains into Neymar's race, who's trying to catch up, maybe we'll find out. Maybe there's a safety car that'll screw things up. We'll see. As Neymar's gap between him and Taylor sitting at just pretty much around 6 seconds, as we have a yellow flag. I believe that is Carbon again. Yeah. Just not having a good time, is he? But, yeah, so far, though, despite Carbon's issues, it looks like everyone has kept it pretty clean, kept it pretty smooth. No spinners yet, no massive spins yet, as now the gap has actually gone. Actually, the gap between Neymar and Taylor has suddenly gone down dramatically. It was 6 seconds before, now it's down to 4 seconds. Maybe Taylor had a bit of a moment? I'm not sure, as there's actually a bit of a move. Ferrari Nut going around on the inside of DeBees, going into turn 11, I believe. They're going wheel to wheel. Ferrari Nut goes around the outside. Does he make the move stick? But DeBees dives right back down the inside. He wants to have 4th place. Ferrari Nut, though, has the outside, which quickly switches into the inside. He has the move done. And now Ferrari Nut has moved himself into P4. So now it's a Uni Virtuosi 1-2 and a high-tech 3-4. How things suddenly just become almost like Formula 1, if you think about it. Virtuosi being almost like Mercedes, and then high-tech possibly being Red Bull. As yellow flags in the 3rd sector again, no doubt that'd be Carbon. Yes, it is. But actually, that I just saw a little bit of a pop-up there. Port is still going faster in these conditions. Astra now gets another 3-second time penalty. That's now 6 seconds to him. As well, we're coming near the halfway point of this Grand Prix. As actually, we got another move. DeBees has now gotten past Ferrari Nut. I think Ferrari Nut had a bit of a moment there on the exit of 4, and that's allowed DeBees to get back up on the around the outside and back up into P4. Ferrari Nut, though, is going to try and chase it back, as this is really the closest fight. Is he going to go to the inside of turn 7? He thinks about it. DeBees keeps around the outside, goes a little bit deep, though. Into turn 8, Ferrari Nut has the inside. DeBees has the outside. They made a little bit of contact. DeBees just keeping P4, as Ferrari Nut has a huge snap on the rear, but keeps it on the track, tries to go for a move, thinks better of it, and just stays behind in P5, as DeBees actually goes a little bit deep. Is Ferrari Nut going to try and dive it on the inside here? Thinks better of it, as he's going to try and go around the outside, maybe possible switchback. Yeah, he is going for the switchback. He's got the grip, he's got the speed. Is he going to go around the outside of the penultimate corner? DeBees trying to run him out wide, but Ferrari Nut just managing to keep it in there. Is he going to try it and now go for a move into turn 1? He's got the slipstream now in the final corner. He's got a lot of grip compared to that Prima driver. They're going wheel to wheel on the main straight. It's quite a long main straight, but it's quite a quick one. Ferrari Nut has trying to go around the outside. DeBees fends it off and stays in P4. Ferrari Nut got a really good exit. Is he going to try and go for a dive? No, he doesn't. Stays P5. But DeBees actually going a bit deep there, and now DeBees is a little bit compromised. Ferrari Nut is right on the back of the Prima driver. Is he going to try and go for a move on the outside or on the inside? He thinks of the outside. DeBees covers it off, though, and keeps that high-tech at bay. DeBees really getting a lot of pressure, but Ferrari Nut has the traction out of that corner. Gets on the curb, though, gets a little squirrely. Is he up into P4? But DeBees actually stays on the inside into turn 8. DeBees has taken back P4. Ferrari Nut gets a really good exit, though, out of turn 8 as they're going wheel to wheel on the uphill. And they're made a little bit of contact. DeBees gets a little bit squirrely, though, and that is handed Ferrari Nut P4 on the road. Quite a battle these two are having, as they're really the main excitement out of this Grand Prix. Wow. So now Ferrari Nut is going to try and gain onto the back of Neymar, or is DeBees maybe going to try and gain back on the high-tech driver? We'll have to wait and find out. But for the time being, all is stationary now, as unsighted Port now has a 7.5 second gap ahead of his teammate, and is coming pretty close, I believe, to overcutting. Well, I would say overcutting, but well, just having a pit stop over P4 or P5 of Ferrari Nut and DeBees. So Port is having a wonderful time around here, as we have another spin. And DeBees goes really, really deep, got really squirrely there. Nearly hit Ferrari Nut, but keeps it out of the gearbox of the high-tech, but slots into P5. That was a massive moment from the Prima driver, as he lost. Actually, he hasn't really lost that much time to Ferrari Nut, but that was a huge moment from him. Wow. Nearly collected him there. But he's going to settle into P5 now and just try and get closer to Ferrari Nut as he actually gets really squirrely there on the exit of turn 8. And that's not going to help him as Ferrari Nut is now just pulling away as of now into P4 and probably just going to settle into a rhythm as of now. Back into the lead now, though. On side of Port has set another fastest lap with a 37.6 as the track is getting drier ever so much. Carbon, however, he did try and go for the medium compound, but thinks better of it as he actually really hits the wall there. The Carbon really just not liking these conditions. He tried to go for the mediums. Guess you could say that gamble definitely hasn't worked out as he's already 3 laps behind on the mediums. So Port's not having a good time and he spins on the exit of 4. So Carbon just trying to find every which way to gain, and it's just so far not gone well for him. But the gap between and that's not gonna help the bees at all. And Carbon has hit the wall on the second DRS straight, and that is him out of the Grand Prix. But like I was gonna say before, DeBee's got a 3-second time penalty. That's not gonna help his race. As well, as of now, everyone's got a penalty except for Ferrari Nut. So Ferrari Nut's really the only guy that's kept it on the track so far. But gap now actually between Neymar and Taylor has gotten at least at like 3 seconds, I believe. Yes, it is 3 seconds. So Neymar just trying to disrupt that Virtuosi 1-2 for now. It looks like he's got quite a bit of speed compared to the other Virtuosi driver, as he's going to try and take P7 away from Taylor Clan in the it's the Mechachrome engine car. These are all basically remember, these cars are completely equal. It's just a matter of who drives it better. And as of right now, who's driving it better? It's Port. Port is just absolutely dominating this Grand Prix at the moment. 9.4 seconds ahead of his teammate. Port really having a good time on this track. He may have a 3-second, but so do the people behind him. So you could say as of now that Port may or may not have this win. We'll find out for now. But yeah, everyone kind of spreading out now. It's almost a bit like a Monaco, I would say. Just like not able to overtake, either like people are too far back or just, like the conditions are too tricky. But yeah, it's settled into a bit of a calm Grand Prix, which is exactly what Port would want, but not exactly what Neymar wants. He wants to get ahead. He wants to come up onto the Virtuosi driver of Taylor, who's just kind of holding back at the moment. He's settling into a rhythm, but not quite the rhythm of his teammate. But he's just keeping it calm, keeping it smooth, as is pretty much everyone, especially Astra in her debut Grand Prix. Astra running in P6, the last of the runners, but it's still a pretty valiant effort from the ART driver compared to his teammate. Port sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix again, a 37.4. You could dare say that would be his fastest lap no matter what, unless the track decides to dry up a little bit. But there's only around, I think, 6 laps to go. Yes, 6 laps. Astra gets a little bit squirrely there. Ferrari now gets a 3-second time penalty, so everyone's got a time penalty. Ferrari, you broke the streak. You could have been the one guy without a penalty. But no, it's fine. As well, not really anyone's getting an advantage due to these penalties. Astra with the highest amount of penalties with 6 seconds worth of penalties as of now. And the one man who was close to not having a penalty but now does, Ferrari Nut, got nearly 5-second gap to DeBees at the moment, and unless something happens at the front, will no doubt settle in for a pretty decent P4 for him, despite starting P6. Oh, that's a spin. That's a spin. Is that Neymar? Yes, it is. Neymar has spun on the exit of 8. Not sure what's happened there. He's got from wing damage. So Neymar who was making the charge up onto the podium, trying to get onto the back of the Virtuosi driver, has now got front wing damage and has lost a lot of time, nearly 10 seconds. And that's no doubt going to help Ferrari Nut try and get on the back of his teammate. But the question is, though, there's only 5 laps to go. Is Neymar going to try? Is he going to pit for another set of tires? We'll have to wait and find out. But that has not gone well for Neymar, as he actually stays out. So he thinks, despite the front wing damage, he thinks he's okay and good to go. So he'll still get the podium, but the question is as to whether his teammate will catch up. The gap has gone down significantly from quite a large margin to now only under 8 seconds, and actually increasing, interestingly. So Neymar still has pace over his teammate despite the front wing damage. But I dare say that Neymar's charge has been complete and not in the right way, unfortunately. You'll still get P3, and well, that's really the most he can hope for, unless something happens to the front two, which at the moment is not happening, as well, the top 3 all separated by over 12 seconds. Port ahead of Taylor, ahead of the damaged high tech of Ferrari Nut. I mean, sorry, not Ferrari Nut, Neymar. But yeah, everything just staying stationary for the time being, as Port comes around the final corner to now start one of 4 laps to go, as he actually sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix again, as he actually has got quite a big margin to the next fastest lap of Neymar with a 1:37.9. So you could dare say, with Neymar having that front wing damage, Port at the moment, he has got the fastest lap without a doubt, as he's just absolutely streaking it ahead. Gets a little bit wide though, but keeps it on the track for the time being. Bit of a boring Grand Prix, but I mean, these Grand Prix tend to happen from time to time. But hey, a race is a race. That's still what we're here for, and that's what we want to see, which is all good. But yeah, it's just kind of all stationary at the moment, as Ferrari Nut still trying to gain on the back of his teammate. Gap is now down to 7.6 seconds for the time being, going down a little, not too much. But yeah, that's really that's really all I can really say for now. Everything's just spaced out. It's all kind of smooth unless something happens. But yeah. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. As well, it's still a Unite Virtuosi 1-2 has been this entire Grand Prix. Really, they have stayed 1-2 since the very start. But it wasn't just Port and Taylor. It was actually Taylor ahead of Port on the first couple of laps before Port got back ahead of him, as he felt he had the pace, and rightfully so. So those two are just staying 1-2 at the time being, which will definitely help them in the constructors, as they'll go way ahead of the next team, I believe would be High Tech, since Neymar is the championship leader as it stands for now until the race is finished. But that could possibly be diminished, as Port is not only getting 27 points, because the fastest lap is worth 2 points, but he's also getting 4 more points for having pole position, as pole position in Formula 2 gains you an extra 4 points in the Grand Prix. So I believe Port is now getting a total of 31 points already compared to Neymar's 15. That is quite the margin. We'll see what Neymar can do in the sprint race, so don't tune out just yet. The sprint race is still to come after this race, where it's just, you don't have to pit. You just have to sprint to the finish, make sure you don't spin. So stay tuned for that for now. But for the time being, Port setting a purple sector 2, as he is just absolutely dominating this Grand Prix with 3 laps to go. He's no doubt just going to go fastest lap after fastest lap, as he's just absolutely streaking ahead. And luckily, with the aid of no DRS, that hasn't helped Taylor at all. Speaking of Taylor, he actually gets a 3-second time penalty, so that puts him to 6 seconds. But he's got more than 3 seconds to Neymar, as it's actually 14 seconds to him and Neymar. As Port sets another fastest lap of the Grand Prix again, a 37.1. He's trying to peek into the 36s, I think. But we'll see what the other drivers can do. As Taylor goes a little bit wide of the final corner, does he try and go fastest lap? He definitely improves, but it's not enough. Yeah, everyone has settled into their rhythm. Well, you would assume everyone's settled into their rhythm at this point, and rightfully so. Especially Port, who set another purple sector. This man is absolutely flying on the track. Both virtuoses with quite some fast laps, no doubt. Just having the car to absolutely push and just give it everything and getting the results they want, especially with the likes of Port, who, like I said before, getting 31 points in this Grand Prix. Unless something happens to him, which I don't want to commentators curse that, but if something does happen, that'll hurt his chances completely, as he sets a purple sector 2, no doubt. Unless he screws up the 3rd sector, he's going for another fastest lap. He is absolutely flying at the time being, as he's going around the last couple of corners to start the final lap of this Grand Prix, this 19 long lap Portuguese Grand Prix. Round 5 of Formula 2, round 3 overall. And, well, is Port going to go into the 36s on this lap? Yes, he is! A 36.7. So Port got what he wanted. He's in the 36s. Is he going to push for even more, though? We'll find out, as we're going to stay on board with him for a bit, as we just watch his traction zones and all that. He knows his corners well around this track, apparently. Although this is a new track, I know there's a bunch of people who have been practicing this Grand Prix day in, day out. Port, looking like one of them, doesn't set a purple Sector 1, though. So maybe he's hanging back a little? I'm not entirely sure. But, yeah, Port. He had pole position. He has the fastest lap. Has led every single lap, but I think a few. DeVries gets a 3-second time penalty, so I'll add 6 seconds. That won't help his race, but he's still got 16 seconds, nearly 17 ahead of the next driver of Astra, so he probably won't have to worry about that. As Port is coming around the final few corners, sets a purple sector 2. Port absolutely flying on this final lap. Is he going to try and get into a low 36? We'll find out as he comes around the final couple corners. The former F2 world champion from last season, who absolutely dominated, he may have some competition today. We'll see. He gets a little squirrely there, but he keeps it on the track like he wanted. Former world champion coming around the final corner, as he is no doubt going to celebrate his race. Yes, he is. He's weaving across to win the Portuguese Grand Prix by quite a gap ahead of his teammate, Taylor Clan, who's coming around the final corner to take P2 for Uni Virtuosi. So Uni Virtuosi gets a 1-2 at the Portuguese Grand Prix in the sprint race. Neymar, despite having front wing damage and despite the slight pressure from Ferrari nut, he's still going to come home to nice P3 after starting P7. So well done to him. Ferrari nut now comes around the final corner and is going to set up for P4. It's a high-tech 3-4. So that's a pretty decent result, but it's just not enough to catch the Prima and the Uni Virtuosi drivers. The piece comes home to P5 in the Prima, and that is a decent result for him in that car. As now we will go over to Astra in the ART on her debut race, coming around the final corner, and is going to take home P5 for P6 for ART. Well done to all these drivers managing to keep it on the track. As we now see undecided Port celebrating his win ahead of all the Portuguese fans. It's an American 1-2. It's a Uni Virtuosi 1-2. Port takes the win ahead of Taylor by absolute domination and takes full points. Neymar gets into P3, like said before, so he's still on the podium despite his woes in qualifying. There you have it. Undecided Port wins in Portimao. It's another win for him, and by quite a margin, ahead of Taylor Clan. 14 seconds between him and his teammate. Neymar gets third from starting P7. Brina gets P4 ahead of the Beast, and Astra in her debut race getting P6, and Carbon, despite the DNF, still gets P7 as he did the 2-stop. But don't tune out just yet. We still have the feature race to come, which is real soon actually, like 5 seconds pretty much. So we'll see how the drivers will get on in the sprint race. Well, unlike the feature race, the sprint race today, we actually now have a dry session, so we'll see these drivers now pushing to the absolute limit as they will get onto the dry compound tire, the slicks. As to what tire that is, there's your answer. It's actually very mixed. We've got mediums and softs, so that's very interesting. Carbon, who, despite DNFing, gets pole for the feature race ahead of Astra. It's an ART 1-2. That's the Beast and P3 ahead of Freudenut. Neymar, Taylor Clan, and Undecided Port round off 5, 6, and 7th. And a new entry of Valkyrie 420, who actually joined midway through the feature race, lines up in P8. So, as long as these people finish, they will get points in the feature race, as only the top 8 is awarded points. But who will get what points? That is the question. These drivers now forming up as we look at the tires that right now. Carbon opting for the soft, so he's going to try and push and get ahead. Astra going for the medium, so probably going to try and stick out long and try and stay on her I would say more experienced teammate, but I think they have similar amounts of experience. I'm not entirely sure. Someone will fact check me on that. And then DeBeast, who's opting what? Apologies, but I'm not sure what Undecided Port was doing there. Is he actually just completely bottlenecks turn 5, completely cutting the corner? So that's a bit of a weird moment for Port. But going back to what I was saying, DeBeast on the softs, no doubt doing what Carbon is doing. Brina opting on the mediums. Both Neymar and Taylor Clan, who finished P2 and P3, they're both opting for the softs. So they're going to try and push, get back up to the top. As Port, who won last race, and as we saw before at turn 5, just absolutely making a mess of turn 5, he's opted for the mediums, which is interesting. So maybe he thinks he's got better pace on the mediums. And Valkyrie, the newcomer, who actually joined F2 this race, much like Astra, Valkyrie is on the soft compound of tire in the Dam's car. So, bit of interesting strategies going on here, as now everyone is going to form onto the grid. We'll see how these strategies play out in the hands of these F2 drivers. Despite there are only 8 of them, we can still see some action. So, we'll have to wait and see as everyone forms up. Carbon leading the pack ahead of Astra, ART 1-2. Although before, it was a Uni Virtuosi 1-2. We'll see what happens in this Grand Prix, as Valkyrie is the last one to line up on the grid on those soft compounded tires in the Dam's car, in Sean Galeo's car, actually, as they now go to the grid. 5 red lights ahead of these drivers. It's lights out, and away we go. The lights went out very quickly, but Carbon gets a really good start ahead of Astra. Neymar actually gets a really good start. He's already alongside Astra and going up into P2. Astra fends it off, though, and stays in P2, but Neymar managing to keep it around the outside. Is going to try and take the move in turn 4. Doesn't quite make it stick as Valkyrie gets really squirrely there. Neymar gets a great exit and is already past Carbon. So something happened to Carbon there as there's a spin behind. I believe that is Valkyrie. Valkyrie, though, manages to keep it on the track, but now it is Astra ahead of Neymar, ahead of Ferrari Nut. So now it's a high-tech 2-3. They've had a pretty good start here, and then it's Taylor, then comes Carbon, and Port, the feature race winner, is not entirely getting ahead of the driver, as now Neymar has already made a move on Astra and up into P1. So Neymar making those softs absolutely work and got ahead of everyone and is going to try and pull ahead. So now it's Neymar ahead of Astra. Then comes Ferrari Nut. Taylor Clan on side of Port as there's a spin, and I believe that is Carbon. Yes, it is. He spins on the top of turn, I believe, to 11. Keeps the car moving, though, and will settle into P7 ahead of Valkyrie in the dams, who had an unfortunate spin at turn 4, is now sitting in P8, but is going to try and catch up to the grid. As Neymar already pulling 8/10 ahead of Astra and is going to lead the first lap of this Grand Prix ahead of Ferrari Nut, as he's actually going wheel to wheel with Astra, is already ahead of the ART driver. Taylor Collins, you're going to try and go on the inside of the ART driver, and then on the inside of Ferrari Nut. Is he going to make 2 moves in a matter of 3 corners? Yes, he is. Gets a little squirrely, though. Little bit of contact there, but Taylor Clan also making those softs work, moves up from P4 into P2 in a matter of a couple of corners. And so is Port, who's already on the back of the high-tech driver, as Ferna is actually going to pull on the inside of Taylor Klein. Doesn't quite make it work. Port is going to go for the switchback on the high-tech. The little bit of contact, a little bit of moving and shuffling, but Port doesn't quite make the move stick. Is he going to try and go for a move into turn 8? Thinks better of it as Astra gets ahead of the Beast and up into P5. Gets really squirrely, though, and Astra's off. Astra's off. Has Astra kept out of the walls? Yes, she has. So Astra, despite making that move, now has a lot of gravel on his tires, but it still stays out of the wall and stays in P6 for the time being. As there's a lot of squabbling in P2. Port going on the inside of Ferrari Nut. Is it going to make the move stick? Ferrari Nut has the inside. And now Port is actually trying to pressurize his teammate Taylor Clan. Going to go around the outside of the penultimate corner. Has he kept him alongside? Yes, he has. And they're now going wheel to wheel at the final corner. Is Port going to make the move? We'll see. Neymar sits the fast lap of the Grand Prix, only 3 seconds ahead of the Virtuosi drivers who finished 1-2. Ahead of Neymar. Port gonna try and go around the outside of turn 1. He's getting really close between these 2 drivers. Remember, they don't want to bang wheels too much or else they're gonna cost time. Ferrari Nut. Port gonna go switch back on Taylor again. Gonna try and go around the outside, and Taylor spun. Taylor spun on the curb of turn 4 and has lost a lot of time. Has been passed by everyone, including Astra. Has fallen down from P2 to P6. That's not what the Virtuosi driver wanted. As we have another spinner, actually, and it's Valkyrie. Valkyrie has spun on the exit of 4 and is going to get passed by Carbon. Actually, I take that back, as Carbon has also spun at turn 4. Turn 4 just proving very tricky, as we have another spin. Is that the Bees? Yes, it is. The Bees has gone off as well. Gets rid of the ball. The signage nearly gets hit by Taylor, but now has fallen down to P6 in the Prima. But Ferrari Nut still on the back of unsighted Port for now for P2, as he wants to make this as a high-tech 1-2. They had 3-4 last race. They're going to want 1-2 this time. Try and get closer. Unite Virtuosi, as Neymar sets another fast lap of the Grand Prix. Port gets a 3-second time penalty. That's not going to help him at all, as we have another spin. Is that Carbon? Yes, it is, as he's actually lost his front wing. And that's a huge off. That's a huge off. That is the Bees. The Bees is in the wall and in the gravel and on the grass. Has kept his tires, though. Does he have damage? Yes, he does. He's now going to try and come back onto the track. we'll see what happens as we actually have a DNF, and it's Carbon. Carbon has DNF'd again. The Beast gets a 10-second penalty that'll probably get removed at the end of the race as he's just trying to come back onto the track. We'll find out and see. But we already have a DNF, and it's Carbon again. He's just not having the best of times in this in Portimao, as it's a double DNF for the ART driver. Now everything kind of settling down a little bit. Taylor Clan already right on the back of Astra. Gets really squirrely. Astra also gets squirrely. Astra spins, and that allows Taylor to come up into P4. And in the Uni Virtuosi car, has Astra kept it out of the wall though? Yes, she has. So she'll stay in P5. But that is not what the driver wanted, to lose position by a spin. Taylor nearly hit the back of Astra though. Imagine to keep it out as they have a yellow flag. I believe that's the Beast, but he's kept it going, no problem. Now everyone spreading out a little bit. Unsighted Port now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, trying to pull away from Ferrari. He has that 3-second time penalty. It's 2.1 at the moment, but getting ever so much bigger that gap, as now Port is trying to gain onto the back of BRL Neymar, trying to take a double win here. It's no driver in real life has ever done that. Maybe Port could try and mitigate that as he sets a purple sector 1. Taylor got a 3-second time penalty that'll add to his woes in the Grand Prix. As we have another spin, it's the Beast. The Beast is out of the Grand Prix of the final corner. Is that going to trigger a safety car? No, it doesn't. So no safety car, as we now have 2 DNFs in this Grand Prix. First Carbon and now the Beast. So that's not what the Beast wanted here. And well, that has not just gone well. As we have another DNF, as we have another spin, I believe that is Valkyrie. Valkyrie's kept it going though. Valkyrie, like Carbon in the feature race, just not having it with this track. I still kept it on the track though. Settles for P6 for the time being. Now everyone's started to spread out a bit. Everyone's gaps just staying stationary for the time being. Neymar leading the Grand Prix. Does he set a fastest lap here? No, he does not. As Port actually sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So there you have it. So those mediums on Port really working well. And speaking of Port, he's actually made up the most positions in the Grand Prix. Port has made up 5 positions, going from P7 to P2. Valkyrie gets a 3-second time penalty, so that's not going to help Valkyrie. He's already 23 seconds behind. But Port, despite being on the mediums, has made up a lot of positions, as has Neymar, made up 4 positions at the start of this Grand Prix. Got the race lead on the first lap. So as to whether he'll hold that lead ahead of Port, we'll have to wait and see. As the biggest loser, unfortunately, Carbon started on pole position and has unfortunately DNF'd out of this Grand Prix, 1st to 8th, and no points ideally out of this Grand Prix. So Carbon not having the best of times. As Valkyrie now gets a 5-second penalty for corner cutting. Not sure what's happened there. As DeVries leaves the Grand Prix, as Valkyrie has a bit of a moment there. Has kept it out of the wall, on the track, ideally out of the gravel, and will stay P6 for now, last of the runners in this in the Grand Prix. As the gap between Neymar and Port slowly going down a little, Astra gets a 3-second time penalty. It's not going to help her race as Port sets another fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So Port, with those mediums. But those mediums start to come alive as those softs are slowly starting to die off. Remember, Neymar is on the soft compounded tire, and Port is on the mediums. Can he make those mediums last? And more importantly, can Neymar make those softs last? As we have a yellow flag, I believe that is Valkyrie. So Valkyrie not having a good time again, spinning, but still P6 for the time being, and we'll stay there for now. And time penalties, like I said before, Port having a 3-second along with Taylor and Astra. Valkyrie having an 8-second. Speaking of Valkyrie, he's off again at the almost at the entry of the penultimate corner. Ooh, Neymar getting a little squirrely there, so those Softs maybe starting to go off a bit on that high tech as the gap is slowly starting to diminish between him and Port. So those softs again, it just does not look like the better tire at the moment. It could be the crossover point, and Port, who's had the pace all race long, looking like having the pace even more as he is gaining on that high tech. Doesn't set the fastest lap this time though, but will no doubt just be inching ever so much more. Maybe got to try and pressurize Neymar to a mistake. We'll see. As he will actually have the DRS now, since the track is dry. Port will have the DRS if he gets close to Neymar, so that'll help his advantage. But the problem is that 3 second just looming over his head. Could that cost him the win? We'll have to wait and see. And well, Ferrari Nut sitting P3 at the time being. It's a decent result for high tech in the sprint race, despite getting 3-4 in the feature race. A 1-3 in the sprint race as it stands will still be a pretty good result for him, as Ferrari Nut gets a little bit squirrely there. Valkyrie gets a 10-second time penalty, and Valkyrie is now out. Valkyrie is out of the Grand Prix, and that has left 5 runners left in this Grand Prix. We started with 8, but now we have 5, and that is in Sector 3. And maybe we can get a sight of that. Oh, that was not going well for him. But actually, what's actually very interesting about what's going on right now, Taylor Klein is caught up to Ferrari Nut. I believe Ferrari Nut is on mediums. Yes, he is. So, despite Taylor being on those softs and it being the crossover point, Taylor actually sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So that's proving my point so much more. Taylor Klein making those softs absolutely work right now, trying to gain on the back of the high tech, trying to disrupt the double podium and try and get 2 double podiums in a row for Unite Virtuosi. So there's actually 2 battles going on. It's actually, if you look right now, it is high tech, Unite Virtuosi, high tech, Unite Virtuosi. So that's interesting. But both Virtuosi drivers, they both have a 3 second. That's not going to help them at all. And both high techs have kept it on the track and out of the white lines. So that could play dividends as to what happens. Neymar just has to keep it on the track, as does Ferrari Nut. As Neymar actually goes a little bit deep there, and that's not a lot of time. Port is right there. Is he gonna have the DRS on this lap? He's gonna have to cross near the final corner if he's gonna want to get DRS. And Taylor Klein is on the back of Ferrari Nut as well, and is probably gonna get DRS as well. So it's becoming interesting now, because the softs should be degrading at this point. But Taylor is making those work, and Port on those mediums is making the softs work. He's now got DRS. So Port has DRS on Neymar. We'll see what happens as Taylor Klein also has DRS. Neymar gets a 3 second. Neymar gets a 3 second. So all Port has to do is get ahead, and Taylor trying to pressurize Ferrari Nut. That has changed things completely for the lead of this Grand Prix. Is Taylor going to go for a move on the inside? No, he doesn't. But now, this has opened up massively for Port. Despite having the 3 second early on, he's now got a chance. He's got 3.5 laps nearly to get ahead of Neymar. These two are championship rivals at the moment. If Port can get ahead of Neymar, Port will take back the lead of the Drivers' Championship, which is exactly what he wants. So don't switch off just yet, because these two could get very interesting. Not just Neymar and Port, but also Ferrari Nut and Taylor. We'll see what happens there. And Ferrari Nut's the only driver to not have a penalty. Will that pay off for him? We'll have to wait. We'll just have to wait and see. But the problem is, Taylor is right on the back of him, just basically pushing him through the corners at this point. So, despite Taylor being on those softs, he's just absolutely making them work now. But we go back to Port and Neymar. Neymar going really defensive on the inside, kind of compromising his line, but not really. Port, is he in the slipstream? Yes, he is. He's got the DRS. He's got the slipstream, but it's just not enough. He needs to get ever so much closer if he wants to make a move. Speaking of moves, Taylor on the back of Ferrari Nut. He's gaining. Is he going to try and go on the inside of turn 1? Yes, he is. Ferrari Nut going to try and hold him around the outside. But Taylor takes P3 on the road. But on track, never mind. Ferrari Nut's got a 30-second time penalty. So it's all game. For Taylor Clan officially has P3, so he needs to keep it away from a 6-second and just ideally make sure those softs don't die so much. But now it's up to Port to try and get ahead of Neymar. Taylor's done his job, and now it's Port's turn. One Virtuosi driver ahead of a high-tech, the other one behind, but he's on those mediums. He's right on the back of the high-tech. It's getting real close between these two. Neymar's not going to want to give up this position, but Port is going to try everything to get this position. It's under 4/10. Port goes on the inside of the penultimate corner. Does he make it stick? Neymar tries to fight it back, though. There's a little bit of contact between the two. And I think there's still We'll find out. Port is now ahead of Neymar. But here's the thing, though. Neymar has the DRS. From the final corner. He's in the slipstream. Is he going to try and make a move into turn 1? Looks a little bit too far back. Neymar's got a 3-second now. So now, all Port has to do is keep it away from a 6-second. As Neymar goes on the inside of turn 3. A lot of contact between these two. They're basically inside of each other at the moment. What has happened there? All I saw was Port mounting Neymar, but now Neymar is back ahead of Port up into P1, but he's got that 3-second. Ferrari Nut pits. He's probably going to go on to the softs. Yes, he is. And Neymar and Port go wheel to wheel again. They're alongside each other again. They're on each other again. Port gets back ahead of Neymar for now, but Neymar's got the traction. He's got the inside line. They both spun. The championship leaders have both spun off the exit at turn 8. Where's Taylor? Taylor's right there. He's got ahead of Port. Is he gonna get ahead of Port? Yes, he is. Taylor is now leading the Grand Prix with only 2 laps to go. It is a Virtuosi 1-2, but in what order? And is Neymar gonna try and come back? That is catastrophic for Neymar and Port as Taylor takes the lead with only just over a lap to go. I told you want to stick around, and this is exactly what we got. Port does have the DRS, though, on his teammate. Is Taylor just going to let him by? What's he going to do? We'll have to wait and see. Port has the DRS. He's got a little bit of slipstream, but it's just not enough. So, Port is really going to want Taylor to make a mistake, as I believe, if we look at penalties right now, yeah, both the Virtuosis are level on points. Penalties. So whoever finishes first, it's all game. Port gets a little bit wide though on the white line, but this is just absolutely flipped. The race is just absolutely flipped now. Taylor, who just made a move on Ferrari Nut, he's just taken the lead due to the two colliding. We could undoubtedly see that to the stewards, but that has gone horribly for the two championship rivals. Port trying to pressurize Taylor into a mistake on the final couple of corners. Taylor's just trying to keep it smooth. He may be on those soft compounded tires, and Port may be on those mediums, but as long as Taylor can just park it everywhere he could possibly have it, we'll have to see as Taylor is now coming around the final couple of corners, and Port is nearly out of DRS, but he's staying within it just. It's getting really, really nip and touch between these two as Taylor is going to come round the final corner. This is probably not what he expected, but this is exactly what he wanted as he's going to come across the line and win the Portuguese sprint race ahead of Port. Neymar takes P3, so it's a double podium for all 3 of these drivers. But Neymar is probably punching himself at the moment. That collision between him and Port, that has just absolutely screwed things. How's that going to go boil down between those two drivers? But Taylor taking the win ahead of Port once again. It is a United Virtuosi 1-2 Ferrari right in the back of Astra. Does he get the fastest lap? Yes, he does. But he doesn't. I think he might have gotten ahead of Astra on penalties. Wow. Oh, that was a Grand Prix that you did not want to miss. Taylor takes the win ahead of Port and Neymar. Probably not what he expected, but no doubt he's pretty happy with that. Port takes P2. Neymar another third, but it could have been what could have been for him. He may have gotten the podium, but this is just not what he wanted. There you have it. Taylor ahead of Port, ahead of Neymar. Quite an interesting end to the Grand Prix. Taylor taking the win, though. Ahead of Port as they get another 1-2 ahead of everyone. So it is a perfect day for Virtuosi. Whether it's controversial or not, we'll have to wait and see what the drivers think of those incidents. But no doubt, Virtuosi were the ones to beat this race. All right. All three of you, be sure to check the check mark to include your audio for the stream, so that everyone can hear your voices. As well, I don't know where to really start. I guess we'll start with the man who finished P3 in both races, which is Neymar. So, you had a bit of a disconnection in qualifying.
Yeah.
You managed to get back in though, and you managed to take P3 in the feature race. So well done to you.
Yeah.
But I think we have to talk about the elephant in the room here. What that final couple of laps just gave. Now, what do you think about that incident?
I had no setup, so I had like 88 wings. So I had like no pace for everybody. Then at the end, Taylor hit the most devious lick at the end of the race. Got boxed. Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite an interesting collision between you two, needless to say. As to whether that will go down to the stewards as to what will happen, we'll see. But you still got a double podium, so well done to you. And that I believe that is 30 points to you. So again, well done. Now move on to the man who finished P2 in the sprint race, who won the feature race as well. Port, you had an almost flawless feature race. You may have got past by Taylor at the start, but you got past him and then pulled a 14-second gap. And then once again, that sprint race, the elephant in the room again between you two and Neymar. You still managed to come home P2, but well, what do you make of this? What do you think?
Okay, let's see. Feature race, that was a meme. I think I set, 14 fastest laps out of 19 laps or something. So that was just kind of hilarious. Sprint race, yeah, we did a little vibing on the mediums at the big. Cam got cocky and pulled away. And then our cars tried to make a Formula 3 car towards the end. Yeah, and then he didn't leave me some space, you know. On exit of turn 8, you gotta leave the space, and when you don't leave the space, you get pit maneuvered. And so I don't know what to tell you.
I pitched devious lick.
Yeah, Taylor got past. I almost killed him too because I had 30 tires, so that was pretty funny.
Yeah, not much to really say except that was quite an interesting last couple of laps. But you still got quite a big haul of points in this Grand Prix, and I think you've taken back the lead of the Drivers' Championship. So well done to you, Port. And now we move on to the man who finished first in the sprint race. Taylor, you had a quiet, I would say, almost quiet feature race. You got ahead of Port, but then he got past you, and then by that point, it was just a simple run to the finish. And then the sprint race. You had a moment at turn 4, but you managed to come back, get ahead of Ferrari Nut, and then the collision that happened on the penultimate lap managed to help you, and you got the win and the sprint race. It's probably a bit surprising, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Feature race, I know my starts are great. Flew by Port like nothing. And then, before I even exited Sector 1, gotta get hit with that triple warning in one corner. And so, yeah, basically let him go. He drove away. At that point, I was just finished P2. Which happened. Sprint race start. Another pretty good start. Had a bit of contact with Carbon. In my opinion, he broke 50 meters too early, but that's besides the point. And then, yeah, Port kinda thought he was going to be an absolute hero and doing me around the outside of turn 4, to which I just, spun on that inside curve because, this game's auto-spin for some fucking reason. And then, what happened from there? Oh, yeah, I just ran good laps. And Ferrari still won the fastest lap on the last lap, so, pain.
All I need to say is that I know exactly what happened on the last couple of laps, so yeah, if you want to look back on it yourself, you can find out. But you still want to race here, so well done to you, and well done to everyone that has joined me in the interview booth. You all got double podiums, so I mean, you better congratulate yourself for that. But yeah, that will be it for Formula 2 this week. Be sure to. Yeah. but be sure to tune in for Realistic Tier tomorrow at, I believe it is 8 p.m. EST, where all the drivers will try and rip around the track of Portimao again, as is everyone else gonna do this week of racing. But from me, that is all.